Welcome to You're Not Alone, the podcast that brings you real stories of strength, hope, and resilience. Life is full of challenges, and if you're navigating a personal struggle, facing difficult challenges, or simply looking for an inspiration, this space is for you. My name is Victoria Vita. I'm a mindset mentor, Reiki master, and a sound healer. I'm also the CEO and founder of Self Awesomeness and the host of this podcast. This podcast is here to give you hope, inspiration, and the reminder that you have community behind you. Our guests are real people just like you who have faced losses, anxieties, and life obstacles, but emerged stronger. Their stories are raw, honest, and full of hope, reminding you that no matter how tough things get, you are not alone. And today's guest is Randy Leonard. Over his half century of life, he has been a lot of things. He has worked in 40 jobs, including a couple decades as a journalist. He's a father, writer, and a thinker. But it was only recently that he learned how to become himself. His upcoming book, Midlife Crisis, Let's Cross Crisis, Redemption, shows how adversity can be our greatest guide to authenticity. Welcome, Randy. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. So you've had over 40 jobs, not a lot of people can say that. And you have an experience of over 2 decades as a journalist. But you said that only recently you've learned how to become yourself. What sparked that shift?
A lot of it came from a background in a framework where I was listening to a lot of other voices in terms of what I should be and do, sort of always looking outwards for achieving some kind of happiness for other people. And that was very true in my work. It never felt quite driven from a central passion. I sort of for a long time said, oh, my passion is other people's passions. And journalism kind of fits into that. You're telling other people's stories.
Hmm.
You're constantly learning and sort of relating a little bit to yourself, but you kind of are supposed to be absent from the conversation. The journalism
Hmm.
quip is to not make the story about you. And I think that kind of went along with where I was in my life. Is kind of I was absent from my own story in a lot of ways.
Hmm. And when we talked before, you also said that letting go of performance and embracing presence, that was one of the things that you had to learn in your life. And what did performance look like in your life? And when did you realize it wasn't sustainable anymore?
I think performance can be kind of two things. They're kind of an outside looking idea for what other people say you should do, but also sort of a built construct that you've internalized. Um, for me, like the golden rule, treating other people the way you want to be treated, sort of always led to this idea of kind of self-sacrifice.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and that performance of of doing anything I could in relationships and friendships with significant others and in the workplace too, of just looking to see what I could execute to gain something. And the something I
Hmm.
thought I was looking for was kind of a form, I think, of security, of feeling good enough, of feeling like I'm okay.
Why this self-sacrifice doesn't work?
I think because of what I just said, and it's interesting,
Hmm.
right? It's you can spin your wheels. You can that pursuit gives you a lot of space. You can try and do that, and try and do that, and try and do that for years. It's those little moments of supposed success where you
Hmm.
make the boss happy, you make other people in your lives happy, and it echoes really hollowly inside yourself. Like, well, this is what I thought my pursuit was. This was my end goal, and I don't feel good. I don't feel happy because my stated goal, the thing I'd been working for, wasn't really in alignment with myself, with what I
Hmm.
want, need, and desire. And again, that was kind of a starting point that I had always thought I need to just give and give and give to get somewhere. And
Hmm.
I think for me, recognizing that the opposite approach is much more effective. Of
So take,
looking,
take, take, you mean?
yeah. So I think in life you kind of end up with two types of people. You end up
Mm.
with, and both are sort of in a childhood state. We Pop psychology talks a lot about narcissists and gaslighters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm describing this first scenario where it's more of gaslighting, more of promising and performing and doing for other people, without a connection to my genuine, authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
The people you'll find in your life are the people who are willing to take. And there is an exchange. There's an even exchange. It's not that one is really getting more than the other. What I was getting was a sort of form of security, a form of feeling like I was okay. But it echoed
Mm-hmm.
hollowly, and I had to learn to become an adult. And I
Mm-hmm.
did that just in the last 2 years. And I shared this story with someone, and they said, "Oh yeah, some people are late bloomers." And that wasn't I wasn't sharing the story with that in mind. I was kind of looking at them, thinking they hadn't really gone through this process. I think a lot of people, quite a few reasons, don't go through this process. Don't go through the process of learning how to give to yourself first, whether you're an
Mm-hmm.
overtaker or an overgiver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, both of those people are dependent on other people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we talk about that a lot in relationships. Find the people that complete us, or looking to other people to meet our own deep
Mm-hmm.
needs. And that's what I felt like this process was about, was recognizing how to be that person for myself, and
Mm-hmm.
how to recognize also that I always have been that person for myself.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of growth, I think, is just waking up to who you are, and kind of recognizing some of the patterns of why you're doing certain things. But we're always working for our own wants, needs, and desires. We're always working for ourselves, just very often not very effectively.
Yes, I would agree on that one, for people to take responsibility for their own life instead of expecting from somebody else to give it to them, or yeah, just to give it to them. So, but when did you realize that wasn't sustainable? You said just over the last 2 years. What was that kind of maybe major shift for you that made you think like, okay, so that doesn't work anymore. So something got to change.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, and it's something that often comes up. When I hear this conversation, and I find people who have gone through a tremendous amount of growth in this
Mm-hmm.
direction, they often use the phrase "hitting rock bottom." For me,
Mm-hmm.
rock bottom was probably a very slow burn, so I didn't ever
Mm-hmm.
realize any one particular moment. But I would say there was a moment of real eye opening for me as I was looking to my children. They have taught me a
Mm-hmm.
ton in life. When I had kids, I had this sense of I, that completes so much of what I'm have been looking for in my life, and I literally remember thinking like I could die now. I'm that happy that like this is so gratifying. But you can't die. You have to take care of your kids. Um, and those first years of taking care of a child, no one prepares you for. Nobody tells you
No,
the
yeah,
hard.
the books
Uh,
don't give you all the beauty of being a
yeah, and
parent.
this whole idea of giving and giving and giving is an
Yes,
absolute demand. And if you don't have a foundation to give from, then you will become completely depleted. And that's how I felt like
correct.
I arrived
Yes.
after a good number of years, 4 or 5 years of that. I felt like I had given out of sort of all of this feeling of lack, a feeling of emptiness, a feeling of insecurity, because I wasn't happy, because I wasn't good at figuring out what I wanted in life and pursuing it. I didn't have a central passion that I was clear about, making my own. I
Hmm.
really had thrown myself into helping other people around me. And these two little people who needed my help desperately when they were 1 year old, I learned when they were about 4 or 5 or 6, they didn't care what I had to say. They didn't care about my ideas of what they should be or do.
Mm-hmm. Oh
All
yeah.
the things and all the constructs that I had been given, I, I was learning more from them than they were learning from me, and the things they were learning were from the examples I was setting. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the aha moment for me. Was I feel deeply that I want them to pursue their wants, needs, and desires. I see a total value.
Mm-hmm.
I champion that. That's what I want them to do. But they're only going to learn from my example. And if I continue to just
Correct.
deplete myself on their behalf, uh, that I'm not going to achieve anything. So that was the turning point for me, which is sort of a redemption. That's why I call it a redemption
Mm-hmm.
of
You want to
the
talk about
idea
your
of
book too? Yeah.
being self-interested. Of we all brush our own teeth. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there is a there's a lot of teaching and there's a lot of emphasis on giving, of not the sort of these reactions to people who take and take and take. Well, that's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
selfish. But at the end of the day, we ultimately are responsible for ourselves. We are our best
Mm-hmm.
advocate. We're the one who understands ourselves. We're the one who knows what we want, need, and desire. And we're the one who's best suited to give it to ourselves. And there's tremendous value in figuring that out, I think, because once you
It is.
do that, once you go down that path of being kind of self-interested first, um, you can realize, and I split this into three different categories because of
Mm-hmm.
having been raised in a really kind of strong structure, a religious structure that said, this is what you have to do. This is what you
Mm-hmm.
have. We hear a lot of people using those words. You have to do this, you have to do that.
Yes.
But really, I think there's two other categories. There's what you need to
Mm-hmm.
survive, and those are really basic.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a gorgeous apartment to survive. You do need shelter, you do need food, but those can
Mm-hmm.
be super basic. Um, Everything else in life really comes down to wants.
Want.
Is
Mm-hmm.
what you want. And when we say, well, I have to do this job to get this salary, to have this apartment, we kind of force ourselves to a construct, and we treat it like something that we don't have control over. And we treat it like something that isn't kind of extra. It is a want.
Mm-hmm.
I want this thing. And so do I want to have chronic stress? Do I want to be absent from my children's life working 12 hours a day? No, I don't want those things. So that started me down a path of, well, what do I want? And
Mm-hmm.
having not focused on what I wanted for 48 years, that or 46 years, that was an eye-opening experience of
Mm-hmm.
putting the pieces together to discover even how to figure out what it was that I wanted.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, they don't know what they want. And sometimes when I ask my clients, like, what do you want? Oh, I want my kids to be happy. So it's like a very generic answer, I would say. But what they want for yourself, they're struggling with finding an answer, what they want for themselves. So how did you figure out what you want? So like what was the first thing that was like, wow, this is what I want for me, not for somebody else? Can you give us an example, please?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think deep internal driver for me has been this concept of authenticity, of being genuine.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be genuine. I deeply respected elements of life that I felt like were genuine, but
Mm-hmm.
I was working off of a lifestyle and a mindset that made me very much not genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and yeah, sort of felt like I had abandoned a lot of myself. And so what the portrayals of who I was, um, echoed hollowly inside. So I think that was kind of a process of connecting to how I personally felt, how I through these experiences and through you could talk about sort of resonance, but
Mm-hmm.
also just kind of consistency, things that make sense, and work internally and externally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was experiential. It was a, a willingness to let go of those ideas, and the hardest one being this idea that I could somehow achieve all of this by being more than what I am, by being the
Mm-hmm.
one that just give and give and give until there was always that thing that I could like that could become who I was without recognizing the benefit of just basically embracing and being who I am
Mm-hmm.
right now. That was a kind of a core breakthrough turning point for me. That's when the tears come of sort of shedding that over projection of our ego of oh I'm the one who can be that person. I can be the
Mm-hmm.
bigger person in the room. I can do all of those things to really recognize the value and the reality of who we are in this moment right now.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting because I use the word perfect and a lot of people chafe at that word. I think I was always projecting a construct of, well, I will achieve, I will be okay when I have these added pieces
Mm-hmm.
of who I
Mm-hmm.
am, when I do these other things. And to realize we're very much perfect in this moment as we
Yeah.
are in our imperfections. We don't have any choice. We don't have any
Mm-hmm.
like we are who we are right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and we are also always growing. We are like our whole construct of who we are works because we have flexibility, because we don't know
Mm-hmm.
everything, because we're on a path. And so
And the
from your
path that doesn't end, basically, we learn
it doesn't
throughout
end.
our
It
whole
doesn't
life. Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
take a big jump in growth, I was like, okay, now I've grown. But no, I recognize the small. Okay, I'm seeing new things.
Yeah. It's a different types of growth when you went from point A to point B. Now you're going from point B to point C. So it's a different growth, but that growth won't be available to you if you haven't gone through A to B. So it's, I think it's expanding to different experiences and teaching us how
Mhm.
to react, how to respond to life and how to enjoy it
Yeah,
and still be authentic and still be ourselves
yeah.
without betraying ourselves.
And I think one of the biggest difference is having a growth mindset. I think some people's choice is to just hold on, to
Mm-hmm.
just get by, to say, okay, this is as far as I've gotten in life. All of those negative lessons learned, all of those problems, all those
Mm-hmm.
times things didn't work out, all of the fears of what might happen in the future, they just cruise and they use whatever their coping mechanisms are to say, this is where I am.
Yes.
Um, the alternative and the way I got here and the way I'm continuing is to be flexible, to recognize this is a process and things can continuously improve. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, one of the biggest teachers was coming to terms with this idea of triggers in pop culture. Most people who hear triggers understand that that's something to avoid
Mm-hmm.
discussing
Mm-hmm.
trigger and it's something to kind of project onto other people. Oh, you're triggering me. My children trigger me. Adversity triggers us. One of the biggest things I've learned in these 2 years is every single one of those triggers is a huge opportunity. In
Mm-hmm.
the sort of less healed, looking for someone else to take care of our wants, needs, and desires, those triggers are a threat to our ego. They're a threat to feeling like things are okay. I'm great. I'm great. Oh, boom. I bumped into some problem. For me, I've now recognized those problems are beautiful. They show you something else
Mm-hmm.
inside yourself that you can kind of um, take on greater power, not by fighting against the thing that is triggering you, but seeing what it's showing you, how a relationship is a mirror to the opportunities inside yourself to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's kind of like the one piece of the puzzle. It's just like, how do you do this, and how do you know, what's this next step forward, and how do you get from point A to point B?
Mm-hmm.
To me, the biggest difference is in that concept of being open to growth, open
Mm-hmm.
to looking to be your own solution to the problems instead of constantly blaming other people and
Mm-hmm.
constantly blaming those things that trigger you for
Yeah.
inconveniencing your life.
Because it's easier to blame somebody instead of taking responsibility for your own life,
It's
right?
easier. I think it's deeply natural.
Yes.
I come back to this child mindset, right?
Yeah.
And again, we a lot of people are like, oh well, what's wrong with me? What's my problem?
Oh,
I don't
yes.
think that I don't see it as things that are wrong with us and things that are problems. I think it's just kind of incomplete mindsets and growth we have an opportunity to do.
Yeah.
And for me, that growth was very delayed. But I think a lot of people, they never go through that growth. But babies learn from
Mm-hmm.
the youngest age, the way to get what they want is to cry. Watching my
Mm-hmm.
children grow, that just changes ever so slightly. But there's
Mm-hmm.
this idea, there's an inner instinct to
Mm-hmm.
just cry, and mommy and daddy will give me whatever it is that I want to need and desire.
Mm-hmm.
That's the growth.
Yeah.
That's the step we have to overcome is, hey, I'm crying because I want something. I'm crying because I need something, but crying ceases to be effective. It works some places, but there's a whole, as adults, there's a
Mm-hmm.
whole other suite of tools you can have to get
Yes.
what it is you need.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to wake up to that idea of not blaming other people for when you're crying or when you're in need, not giving you what you want.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not even blaming other people when you feel like shit, pretty much. Pardon my language. Because it's still us who can take responsibility for our feelings. Like, yes, embrace them. Sometimes what we talked about when you said about triggers, what we have to do, we just have to embrace our fears and move forward. We have to look at our triggers as an opportunity, not hide behind them and say everything in life is horrible. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. So I want to talk about your upcoming book, Midlife Crisis, which I guess you crossed it out and called it Redemption. How that adversity shaped or even revealed your authentic self.
Yeah, I think it picks up right on what we were just saying.
Yeah.
Recognize that all of these, and it was pretty funny when I was going through this sort of struggles. I had to come to grips with where I was in life, and I remember I was walking in the woods regularly and just kind of weighing a lot of these feelings. And one day I was just thinking like, I'm almost 50. He was thinking, how can I be 50 if I'm actually really 30? And it's just a typical mindset. And when I kind of rounded that curve of like, really, I really am almost 50, I had this aha moment
Mm-hmm.
of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, these struggles in my life are a midlife crisis, and what people would call a
Mm-hmm.
midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Like the hair's getting grayer, relatives are getting older, some are
Correct.
passing on.
Yeah.
I think that's all part of it. It's recognizing where the shifts were with the generation coming behind me, and what my children were doing in ways in which they surprised me of already like being better people than I am. All those things coming together, but there's definitely an element of recognizing the story doesn't end well. We like to we're searching for, oh, how do I know I'm going to be okay? How am I to know I'm going to be okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're not. I'm not. We're like, at the end of the day, there is the reality that we
Mm-hmm.
die. And I think that's
All of us, by the way.
all of
Every
us. All
yeah.
of that's something that a lot of people like to gloss over. I
Correct. Yeah.
the we spend most of our time trying to ignore and trying not to face that
Mm-hmm.
uncomfort. uncomfortable reality. Um, but so much of our lives, structure in our lives, the ego that gets built into how are we going to avoid this eventual calamity, uh, we gain tremendous power if we come to terms with that reality.
Mhm. Mhm.
So instead of saying, I'm going to be okay, I started telling myself, I am okay. I'm okay. I'm not going
Yes.
to be okay. I am okay. What matters now? What is really
Yes.
relevant right now? And flipping that script, I think, was a starting point uh,
Mhm.
for me to see things again instead of a crying child who just wants to be happy in
Mhm.
this moment, seeing like, hey, every bit of life is an opportunity. There is a whole bunch of stuff that we worry about, the feelings we have, pain that we've experienced in the past, all of it in the end goes away. There's deep nihilism and darkness when you start going down that road, but the
I
bright
think
spot in
it's I think it's a bright spot. To me, it was a
right,
very great
yeah,
realization that we were born to die. Everybody. So, and we make a choice how we want to live right now in this present moment. And it all came with my son's dad passing at 43. So it's like, I don't know, maybe if I'm there at 50, great. If I live until 80, that's great. But we don't know how much time is left basically for us. So we as human beings, we have a control how we want to live it
yeah,
instead of just being afraid to talk even about death. And because as you just said, it all goes away. It just we become just a cold corpse, and that's it. So just there is no you in there. Yeah, and everything that we worried about, it's just you leave it behind. You cannot take it with you.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I can
I,
be very. I have sometimes very dark jokes about that. So.
it all I resonate with all of that, and the takeaway, the point one being, hey, this reality to death. Point two, exactly what you're saying. In that context, we are extremely free. We are
Hmm.
extremely free right now, um, and that it is a hopeful message. And like my kids even echo this. Like the
Hmm.
meaning of life is to enjoy what we have right now,
Yes.
and it really gives us that ability to adjust all those parameters, to adjust the construct that we're working with. Is it better to give to other people or figure out which one for yourself? Yeah, guess what? Figure it out. See what
Hmm.
matters. See what
Yes.
resonates.
And
See
to
what
you, because you're different, everybody's so different and unique, and just see what works for you. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So, do you believe a breakdown or crisis is necessary for transformation? And do you talk about that in your upcoming book, or there is another way to awaken?
for everyone it's going to be different, and like I said, for me, um a lot of the wake up was pretty gradual. There was a certain point in time, yeah, I was drinking kind of regularly just because I liked the flavor of IPA. I could stop whenever I wanted to, but without recognizing that it was an emotional crutch. I was drinking about 3 IPAs a night, and it started to not feel good. I was getting old enough to just one of them didn't feel good, and I stopped. When I stopped that, I suddenly woke up to a lot of emotions that I was escaping from.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
those led me to move into
Mm-hmm.
action. But a lot of the crisis, a lot of this is again why I call it redemption.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think, oh, this is hard, this is hard work here, ego death and evolving and like making these tough choices. I don't think they're tough choices. They're pretty obvious choices once you see them. I think self-abandoning for decades is tough.
Yes.
It's really
Mm-hmm.
hard to keep trying to convince yourself to go down roads that don't align for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think something has to get our attention, whether it's something sudden, like the death of someone very close to us, or just kind of these gradual wake ups. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was just kind of looking at my deep seated motivations and seeing how those played out with my children. And so it wasn't a moment. It was just a bit of a wake up realization to there's a better way for me to be operating, and it isn't it isn't this feeling, this drive that I have to be the best father, the best husband,
Mm-hmm.
best whatever. There's something else that is going to be better for me and for everyone else in my life.
Mm-hmm. Because when we are for ourselves, people around us feel that energy as well, and they feel better. I remember when I was not uh, in my authentic selves, let's put it this way, and I wasn't in line with myself. My son was my mirror. He would always do something crazy, and that would trigger me. But more I grew to my authenticity and just, I guess, slowly becoming who I am authentically, he is the same. Like, he feels me. If I'm not in balance, something would come up. If I'm in balance, okay, okay, so let's see now what's going on. So he is my mirror, and they feel our energy. And as you said, like, if we betray ourselves all the time to give, they sense that, and that's not good for them. That's not a good example that we want to set for our kids.
Yeah, and for me, it was a dramatic realization of the power of presence, and what that means in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. um, of when you are, striving, struggling, looking at yourself as a failure because you're not meeting that ideal,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have energy to give. And this was one of those lessons that I've learned in the last couple of years, is the power that you can have literally by doing nothing, by being there for yourself, by being
Mm-hmm.
your own rooted, grounded affirmation, really, right? Again, back to parents, we're like, we want someone
Mm-hmm.
to pat us on the back, we want someone to make us
Yeah.
feel good about ourselves. When we can be there for ourselves, even when things don't make sense, especially
Yes.
when we are rocked, especially when we're triggered, whether it's a breath, again, sort of this idea of um, being in the moment, and being in sort of mindfulness concepts that help us not be stuck in our past and not be worrying about our future, but just be like, you know what, future doesn't end well, but I am okay right here and right now. There is so much depth to what happens in
Mm-hmm.
that moment where your senses become alive, where you're appreciating and open to opportunities you can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and your energy is flowing out into the people in your life. So that absolutely, and I also, this is really interesting because I feel like 6 months ago that was one of my core lessons, was I was struggling to give and give and give and give in relationships and in work and in like sort of corporate environment of like, what can I do for you so you'll pay me money. um, Coming to this idea that okay, I'm okay as I am. I can just sit
Mm-hmm.
and be, starting from that foundation and then looking at what you can actually do for other people, what you could do for yourself.
Yes.
And basically, I feel the more firmly we are grounded, the further we
Mm-hmm.
can reach out, we can stretch out, we can send our energy out into the world. And people like that. People pay you for
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So it's really an interesting. I come back to these words of just be and do, and they've kind of changed roles. I've changed my relationship with them, where it
Mm-hmm.
started this like never-ending struggle to perform, to just be doing based on kind of parameters that didn't really align with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Reverse the whole order of those things and have a new relationship with sort of being for myself and
Mm-hmm.
doing for myself and looking at how much that can impact the world around me.
The world. Yeah, that's so true. So, can you talk about? I want to ask you a few more questions about your book. What do you hope readers to take away from that book? What's the main message of the book?
I think, and again, like the title, it's not a crisis, it's a
Mm-hmm.
risk.
Mhm.
uh, the redemption of everything I always wanted, every struggle. It wasn't like again, it wasn't about last year. It was about the past 47 years of
Mhm.
who I was, of all these pieces of the value that I did have. And to recognize the opportunity for growth. Growth by embracing everything that we've talked about, to not be
Mhm.
stuck. A lot of people describe being stuck. And
Mhm.
being stuck is really just not seeing where there's wiggle room, and the wiggle room, the power.
Mhm.
People are, God, I'm in an unhappy relationship.
Mhm.
All the
Mhm.
relationships I get into are the same, or all of those things.
Mhm.
To recognize the power that's in your hands when you take responsibility, when you open yourself
Mhm.
up to, hey, it's not them, it is you, not in this.
That's
It's just,
very important part. It's like you now.
and that, yeah, and that that things can deeply improve when
Mhm.
you stop just holding on to the hardships and the struggles and the framework that you have based on your experience, and saying, you know
Mhm.
what, the things that I always wanted, the things that I always believed, the thing I want to be happier, I want to
Mhm.
matter, I want to feel good. Those things are deeply possible.
Mhm.
uh, and the solutions aren't out there. They're in here. They're in here, and
Mhm.
you don't have to. You don't have to change
So
your
there is no
relationship.
magic pill. You're not sharing the recipe of the magic pill. You just take it and bang, you know what you want.
Yeah, I think it's just waking up. I know the biggest magic
Mhm.
pill is that switch from looking for anybody else out there to fix your situation, to saying, this is on me. All of those
Mhm.
past, the problems with my past aren't those people's fault.
Mhm.
It's not that bad situation that happened to me. It's it's me feeling bad about who I am because of those things that happened to me.
Yeah.
Um and and that kind of shuts us down and locks us in, of a feeling like I can't
Mhm.
overcome that, I can't get beyond that, I can't, um I can't be happy.
Mhm.
Recognizing we can, when we realize it's our choices, it's our awareness, it's our ideas, it's our belief in ourselves, it is our ability to console ourselves, it's our ability to fail forward, to fall down and to try and to get
Mhm.
back up, and to fall down and to try and to get back up.
Mhm.
um, and you're going to do this anyway. You're going to go through life doing these kinds of things, but you're going to benefit from the hardship.
Mhm.
You're going to end up in a much higher plane if you take this perspective into mind that, you know
Mhm.
what, this struggle is real, but there is an opportunity for me to grow and to overcome and to get more out of life through whatever the struggle is that I'm facing.
Mhm. So basically, take responsibility for your life. That's the shift. And I think for a lot of people, it's really struggling to take that responsibility. And I think, especially at the beginning of the healing journey, like inner, like self growth as well, it's just take that small shift in small. I usually recommend to do this in small increments, like what do I want, and can I change that? If it's huge, don't start, I don't know, with what, quitting your job. Start looking for a new job, right? Or see different opportunities that are out there. If that the whole concept of doing big step terrifies you, but when you reach that point of you know for sure that you are taking responsibility and you cannot blame anyone. The world is changing. You can take big steps. You basically you quit your job and just see what happens. You start doing different things and kind of searching for your soul work and things that you want to do. And I think, kind of to wrap up, what I wanted to say is just start small, just start making small decisions. I don't know, even make a meal that you want to eat, not that your spouse wants to eat. Make a coffee or tea instead of juice because they are drinking. Just see what you want in small, in daily life. So it helps to figure out how you can take responsibility for your own life, taking like big steps forward.
Yes.
Yes. So, what does being fully yourself look like for you now? And how does it feel compared to your early seasons of your life?
A big part of it is listening to myself. I think when you're trying to figure out, and it's everyone knows this isn't the way you're supposed to do it, but I pre- probably preached against the idea of try and make other people happy while
Mm-hmm.
doing it for years. But part of what you're doing in that mindset is projecting. It's imagining. It's coming up with different conversations in your head. How's this going to go? Should I say this or should I say that?
Mm-hmm.
This. That's all very different from listening to yourself. And again, that comes back to uh, what's happening right here in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it gets, the more you do it, and it's a practice of kind of being quiet, not necessarily mentally going down the pathways of figuring things out, but kind of listening to what is there underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it gets deeper into intuition. Guilt is a great sort of flag of like, oh, something's not aligned in my life. Not I need to change my behavior because to fit into some situation or because
Mm-hmm.
someone wants me to, but to wake up to the fact that you have underlying beliefs and feelings and desires that are in conflict with what you think you're trying to do in that moment. So being aware of those and listening deeply to kind of that quiet intuition that can
Mm-hmm.
kind of be a flag, and just to pick it up and examine it. This I find really interesting because people will talk about this all the time, like the power of intuition. Um, Recognizing that's an imperfect system too. Sort of you're moving along through life with an ever changing construct, with a nervous system, and a lot of it's all built on the past. The past is gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's imaginary. It doesn't. It's not there anymore. So recognizing your intuition was built from that experience and opening yourself up to the broadest potential for what could happen in the future, not limiting
Mm-hmm.
yourself to, oh, okay, well, based on these 27 things, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go this way, and then I'll turn right, and then I'll turn left, and then life will be good. But
But
instead saying,
that's mind talk and not intuition, by the way.
you,
No, don't you think so?
yes, but
Mm-hmm.
also in the moment being flexible, even with all the signals, the signal of
Mm-hmm.
your own truth. Um, your own truth will change as you go through your life, and kind of holding that sort of loose enough to take new opportunities. To if you come to a conflict, choose the road less traveled or choose the road often traveled. See what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize it's a process and move forward with it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to reading your book. So, and we will share all links, how you can contact Randy and where you can purchase the book, because I think that book will be a treasury for a lot of people who are going through their midlife redemption now, but they still think it's a midlife crisis. Thank you so much for being on today's podcast. But before we wrap up, can you please share your legacy message, your encouragement message with the listeners?
I would just say embrace who you are and who make room for who you are becoming. And through that, allow yourself to touch everyone around you in the most positive way.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And if life feels overwhelming with constant challenges and pressure, check out my 4 favorite calming techniques below this episode. So they will help you to stay grounded and live in the present moment. Please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss another powerful episode. And remember, no matter how tough things get, you are not alone.